Hello, everybody. This is Amy Fountain, and we are broadcasting from For the Love of Autism. I created this channel, this YouTube channel, this website, because I have a deep and profound love for autism. I'm an advocate for the spiritual catalyst that it is in humanity's evolution. And I am so excited to share with you all of the information that has come through to me over the years, which definitely hasn't come without resistance, but I've broken through each time because it has really shown me the love that it is here to be and to really change the way that humanity functions as a whole. It's really here to give us a blessing, and each of these individuals that come in this population have a special message of their own. It's unique. No one is alike, and to me, it's just here to show us how much we can grow and expand into the life and reality that we really all want to see, which is more unified and pure and free of the toxins. And I say toxins in the sense that toxins can become in any sort of form or even not form. You know, it can be in an energy. It can be the energy of emotions or thoughts. And that's actually what exasperates the symptoms of autism, which is essentially that's what autism or any kind of label, you know, that you're going to get, it's a symptomology, you know, it's kind of put in this box, and we explain it by checking the boxes and saying, okay, yep, you have so many of these qualities or symptoms, therefore you have this ailment or this disorder in this sense. But that's what I created this channel for, is because I want to really unravel a lot of those highly charged ideas and emotions around something so that we can help shift the perspective and see it as the gift that it's here to offer us. So I'm really excited with my guest today, starting a series with AmberBlack, and we're going to talk just a little bit about who AmberBlack is today, because she has a wealth of information on many different subjects that can offer insight and assistance for people that are on the spectrum, as well as those who support them, care for them, you know, and how all of these lines can bleed into less compartmentalized symptoms, and how do we recover through that, because really, as many people have seen, there is recovery to autism and all of these other things. So I want to get into who you are, Amber. Maybe you can just give us a little bit of insight as to your journey with autism, and what you do actually as far as your bodybuilding goes, and you know, all of the physical pieces that we can add to it so that we can start to understand what this energy is behind all of it, because I feel like that's the missing piece that isn't often addressed when we talk about this subject, because we're very highly focused on what's happening in the physical, but there's this really awesome dance that goes on between the physical and the energy. And I just want to hear from you what your experience has been so that we can kind of open minds and take it further into this understanding of it being part of the raising consciousness of humanity. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay.
And your story.
Well, I'm a 40-year-old bodybuilder and fitness advocate, and I manage my life with autism through the discipline structure that actually provides for me in a very systematic way. But it also provides for me a very open way to express with others how I've managed to really identify and find point of reference with what has helped me manage my symptomology of what autism is for me and my reality, staying in a place that is very present with the points of reference at that moment for me to be able to apply a disciplined way of living my life with higher frequency vibrational aspects of life that keep me healthy and keep me grounded and really assist me in anchoring my reality in such a way that it also keeps me healthy and strong. It helps me facilitate my life in such a way to where I am more harmonious between the frequency and nature of all of who I am, in congruency with the physical nature of my existence here, doing whatever I'm doing. The interaction that I'm able to create with other people on their journey and assisting them with health and fitness in whatever form that might be for them allows me to share with them the tools and techniques that work well for me and help them implement that where it can work well for them. And my recovery story over the pretty much the decade of my 30s and applying these principles really support from a functional and factual position the validity that it does work, and it does intend bringing forth a higher quality of life and a conscious way of being that really expands one's frequency and acceptance for what it is that they're moving through in that moment with the right support.
That's beautiful. I'm going to touch on a little bit here for those that may be watching this and are kind of saying, what the heck are these girls talking about? What it's been, anybody, no matter what level that you understand, for example, autism, and what clearly, as far as the energy goes, has shown is these individuals are not fully anchored into their body. That essence, that energy, that soul, that spirit, that who they are, is very much kind of up and out of the body often, because the environment of the body or the environment around the body, the family environment, all of these factors play into that anchoring of that essence in the body. And you even see somebody might talk about they're not behind their eyes, you know, and there are times when you can see that presence behind there. And so what Amber is alluding to, and what I'm hearing needs to be said, is that to understand that the vibrational frequency has a lot to do with the ability for that essence to anchor into the body. And so what I'm hearing you say, Amber, that's something that you have done and worked on when you talk about your recovery, is you've had more of an ability to be integrated into your physical body, and through whatever avenue that has worked for you. And so you're offering that information so that it can help other people perhaps understand somebody they love or even themselves when it comes to, you know, perhaps they've received a diagnosis and they're not sure what to do with it. So I want to utilize that diagnosis as a springboard. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey with maybe what your experience, what you felt over the last 10 years, perhaps some of the symptoms that you've had, and you know, what that diagnosis might have done for you to get. So tell us about when you received the diagnosis or the label of autism,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps the symptoms that brought you to that diagnosis. Start there.
Okay, so the diagnosis came at 37 after many years of searching for somebody who could really help me pinpoint a place of reference to know what was occurring with my body, as most of you identify with regarding autism, and mostly in children. I started suffering with many severe physical issues, such as, you know, the different types of digestive issues you hear about. I was having seizures and certain body functions within my organ system functions was not functioning properly. And I would visit all types of specialists, endocrinologists, and have all kinds of tests run that would indicate that everything was fine, and clearly it was not fine. There were many days where I was not communicative on any level, and I was very conscious of that. The best analogy I can give is, the point of reference of seeing somebody who's in a coma. That person's extremely conscious of what is going on around them, but they're not able to specifically speak about what it is they want to communicate in. So what occurred for me was I had enough awareness that knowing my body was going through something and I wasn't having any answers, I started researching different things that potentially could be what was going on regarding what my body was showing me. For instance, I learned about Crohn's disease, and that was not the case for me. However, that was something to rule out. And through the process of really watching what was happening with my body and reading and matching things in a more abstract way of understanding what goes with what and if it applied to me, and asking the universe to really show me from a standpoint of what resonates with me, which direction to go. That's how I figured things out for myself. Things would manifest in such a way to where all of a sudden, as I continued to ask what was happening with me, autism showed up everywhere, in any form, all forms, and in the most auspicious ways to really get me to pay attention to that being in my life. And why? Once it was more in my physical awareness and I was present with people that were connected to autism, it occurred to me that I understood it completely. I understood the children. I could communicate with them. I could identify with what was happening to them physically. And I could describe for other individuals, specifically the parents, how that child felt as I moved into a place of ease with really being able to admit that I could understand that and overcome that. There was definitely a connection in finding the celebration and accepting that for me in my reality, and talking about it. So it was the acknowledgement and surrounding myself with other people in the same journey and who could really resonate with the real and true aspects of what this is. But for me, what happened was I was able to apply and discuss in a very comprehensive way the energy behind what autism is and how it affects the human body, because I was actually experiencing that for myself. What I was actually able to do was, with the diagnosis that came along with serious PTSD, was for me the vehicle to explain how PTSD also plays a role in triggering autism, making that connection, and then explaining what happens to the body after that trigger has been induced in the brain, because it's systematic. The brain follows the body, and when there's a trigger and it creates a trauma in the brain, things don't connect correctly. I could put all of that together for people, but at the same time as I began to speak about it, I was also speaking about myself. And within the understanding of energy, the frequency that dictates the different energy body behind the autistic individual and how that matches up with the physicality of their existence, I could provide information to individuals about my story that supported me coming back into a place that was more fully complete, anchored, balanced, and whole after many years of not being in that place, that reinforced helping them understand what they needed to do for themselves, whether it was they that was an autistic individual or on the spectrum in some way, or had a loved one in their life that they were caring for and that needed help. I could provide the tools of helping them understand the importance of the vibration in nature of the frequency that that individual needed to get well and to relax where the trauma had occurred within the trigger that disconnected them, to come more fully into a place for themselves that was anchored and balanced. And that is applied through knowing what works in the environment, staying in a very holistic place of knowing what you put in your body in terms of being organic, pure in nature, and of a high vibrational frequency, to stay in congruency of what the nature of each individual is. I was able to identify with points of reference for people to really identify with what a certain threshold was for somebody as it relates to the spectrum, and why it is that way for each individual and why it's different. Really understand the frequency in nature specific to that person and the bioidentical nature within the existence of that individual as well, and how to assist them in their reality to be more functional on the planet.
Wow, it's really, really awesome. It's a lot. Well, I'm going to have to watch that again so I can take it in. And, it's a lot of kind of outside of the box information, but I feel like it's really important because it's where we're going as a collective. Clearly, on a physical level, I mean, we can see that as the Earth reacts to the decisions that we've made that weren't from a pure level, But I think that enough of us on this planet are connected to that love that each and every one of us are, and we have a role to play here. And as the individuals that come into this world that are really kind of making a lot of noise, or maybe rather not making any noise, with that is really kind of shaking up the foundation of what we think has been working, but clearly it hasn't. And I love that you touched on this level of purity, because that to me is what's natural. That is what the direction that we have to go, because that's what's sustainable. And it's just showing how much so many of us don't have really a tolerance for that anymore. And what can we do? The right questions to ask are, what can we do to support these individuals rather than try to change them and make them fit into what we see the status quo is today? Because clearly that is not a correct match. Hence your mentioning of the biodynamic, that the energy and the physical really coming together to do that dance that is harmonious, and it's a little bit out of balance, out of harmony, but we're getting to that by sharing this kind of information to open up and expand us out of these boxes that are keeping us limited, into expanding into what's actually possible. And I think that looks very different for each person, and I appreciate individuals like you who are able to really kind of relay that information in a way that can help people on that individual level. I want to know then, as far as what it sounds like as you were describing, is you had some certain symptoms that weren't really giving you answers in the traditional sense of medicine, but you kept going, and there are references to leading you in the direction that you needed to go. I imagine you used your intuition that entire time. And so when you did finally get the diagnosis, or you had the understanding that you were tapped into this frequency of autism, what did that do? Did that inspire you? Did it, give us a little bit of a story on that, on how it made you feel? Did it make you feel limited? Because I think a lot of individuals, it's a relief to receive any kind of diagnosis so that we can understand how to move forward. But I really like to utilize that label as a springboard to share
Mm-hmm.
with us kind of what you went through emotionally or mentally in regards to that, and how you see receiving this diagnosis could actually be a benefit rather than a limitation.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So, for me in my journey, the diagnosis, I tiptoed into that potential possibility. Um, and it was about a year in speaking with different clinicians on that potential possibility. But the fact that I was over 18, most were not open to looking at what I was going through as being a potential possibility. And so that was delaying for me, having that point of reference, to have that springboard to say, okay, I've got this point of reference. Let me focus on using that to really narrow down and turn this around. And so once I actually did come into a place of finding somebody that worked with me, I had been through so much in so many different ways in my life. It was a relief because nobody would hear me. And not only did they not listen to me, they would argue with me about what was happening to me. And I clearly knew something was happening to me. This person didn't do that, and she was really wonderful and acknowledged me, but not only me, the fact that there's many adults, that go unacknowledged as well. And once I had that point of reference, in addition to the reason why I had come into the place of where I was at the time, being added, it it was a relief in the sense of having a point of reference, but at the same time, it took me about a year to really accept being okay with it. Uh, Mostly because in my life I had not been accepted because I was different. And so I already had that uh, belief system that, oh, now this happened, and now I've got this diagnosis, and uh, it was a very pivotal time for me to be able to step into that place to say, I'm okay with that. This is okay. It is a label, but the label gave me point of reference. And I took it from the perspective of using it to say, now I can narrow things down to better further my journey in getting well and managing what was happening and reinforcing, turning everything around that had really taken me into a place to where at one point, I wasn't going to survive because of what was happening from a very traumatic place with my physical well-being. Um, it's very important for people to really know, no matter what they're diagnosed with, in my opinion, that it's not anything from a negative standpoint. It's a positive. It's a point of reference. That point of reference for me, it was to focus on what others had come to find worked in managing autism and what they were going through. And what I did for myself was read, and I would observe, and I would observe other autistic individuals and what was happening to them or for them, what was working for them and what wasn't working for them, and if it resonated with me. And so that is how I peeled back, healing how things had gotten so far gone for me to fix it. And I consciously at age 32, focused a decision to dedicate getting well, finding what was happening to me, why that was happening, and devoting a very solid commitment in what that journey looked like for me, with no expectation of what it was going to be, or no matter how long it was going to take me to get through it. And that's what I did, and I've been very steadfast in that place. And it's been a journey of dedication that is not a primitive way of being. It's not a lifestyle that allows me to live the way most people would maybe expect that I do. And that space not only has provided a very, very positive and resourceful vehicle in how I live my life from a place of discipline, but how it shifts and expands everything that surrounds me, including the energy that I'm able to encompass physically and spiritually, and operate in a way that surrounds me with an equal and aligned frequency. Other people, other types of interactions in my life, and it all boils down to keeping the alignment solid. So where I had come from was a place of judgment, of not being accepted. Where I'd come from was not being good enough, or what I was doing wasn't what I was expected to do, so therefore it wasn't good enough, even though what I was doing was. And even though what I was doing I was good at, and it actually was very positive for other people, what my healing journey did was bring me into a space of a different frequency that is collective, with other people who are supportive, who embrace the nature of uniqueness, and really unite in such a way to where they identify in the unique place that the autistic individual is from a neurotypical standpoint, which was new for me and positive. But what they also did was really tap into seeing the difference in what it was also doing for them in a positive way, and that was the mutual frequency. So the positivity that came forward in the commitment that I took to become better for myself and really find self-acceptance in that space opened me up into aligning with people who were of the same frequency and who wanted to know what I knew and how I had figured it out. And as they got to know me, it reinforced me speaking more and more and more about what that looked like, and watching them apply it to other people and it working in a very positive and wonderful way reinforced me continuing to do just that. And that's where I am today, is coming forward with sharing what my journey looked like for most of my 30s, if not all of them.
Wow, thank you for that. That's really, really inspiring. You touched on so many wonderful points, and something I wanted to bring up is, kind of this whole little mission that I have to share this kind of information is, clearly we are evolving as a humanity, and what does that look like? Maybe it starts as what we see as neurotypical, and how is it that we could see an individual that seems to be what is often labeled disordered as here to change that, to raise the consciousness, to actually assist in the shift in consciousness that's happening. There's so much scientific proof these days that there really is something happening on this planet as far as the shift in consciousness. And things such as, solar flares, the sun is kind of helping us bump up that energetic frequency. And as that frequency raises, it really doesn't leave as much room for all of that heaviness to come with us. There's a lightness to it that we can embrace, and through that, what I'm hearing you say is through acceptance. you know, and it's okay to, for example, you know, be researching and getting into what is really going on with this individual, and to finally come to that turning point and receive an actual platform to springboard from, which I see as the label. So you don't have to see it. I mean, I so agree. You don't have to see it as a negative, but it's okay if you do have those feelings. You know, we have to really acknowledge and honor um, those feelings because they need to come up for release. You know, I believe that so many times, especially in my life, I've seen what feels like the most horrible experience can actually really, if you just allow it, if you just feel it, if you face that fear, and you just don't judge it. You don't try to stuff it down, because that's what we've learned is what we do with our emotions, and what we do with these things that are uncomfortable is we medicate them, we numb the pain. But if we can see that that pain, for example, is a symptom or a message of something's not right here, something needs to be addressed, rather than it being something to fear and to hide away from. It's going to keep coming back up because it does need to surface. We do need to lighten up, literally, in so many ways of that term, on this planet, so that we can embrace these high frequencies of love that these individuals come and hold steadfast in. And I've seen many times that if the environment doesn't support this purity of love and lack of essentially this density, this feeling of toxicity, then it's just going to keep persisting in a very uncomfortable way until we're willing to open our hearts and just accept what is. I think it's a really important point to recognize that nothing is, you know, like a death sentence necessarily, or what I often know and hear parents hear with diagnosis like this is that your child will never have a normal existence as an adult. And so I so appreciate, you know, you sharing this about adults and how they're going under the radar. They're not necessarily getting the same support because they weren't diagnosed as, say, a 2-year-old. You know, it's still kind of not fitting in that medical box, that allopathic medical box.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate so much that you have this other explanation of, once I had this acceptance, once I was able to just embrace what was happening, then I could move forward and start working on what's going to support me in my recovery, because, you know, pain doesn't have to continue until you actually find out the cause of it. Pain is, to me, an absolute message, and really even set on by stress. Stress is, when you said the post-traumatic stress, that was, you know, what is it,
PTSD.
PTSD. You know, I mean, how many people are just living with that from our everyday world, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's where those lines bleed, and we can learn so much from individuals that are sensitive, and that's how I see it. You know, my son also kind of started to present with some, I would say it's emotional toxicity, because that had to do with our path together. You know, I needed to open up to the reality that I closed down my sensitivities emotionally, although it's something that I now see as a gift. You know, a gift to be able to really feel those emotions and allow them without trying to stifle them or stuff them away.
Mm-hmm.
So we each have a very unique purpose here, and we each have a piece of this puzzle of humanity, and collectively being able to raise our awareness and our consciousness, so that we can embrace the love that each and every one of us are. So I appreciate so much of what you do, and we're going to have a lot more conversations about specific points. So if there's any of you out there that really would benefit a discussion on any of the things that Amber or I have touched on, please do, you know, comment, put some comments down below, and ask questions or put any kind of input that you want to put there. Everyone's accepted, even if it's, you know, from a place of, I don't know what the heck you guys are saying, because it just gets the conversation going. It gives that kind of open door so that the information can come through and help us all on each of our individual journeys. It's a big passion of mine that each person does discover their authenticity, and it doesn't really look any specific way. You can't even almost label it. So I invite you to, you know, be inspired and also share or definitely ask questions so that we can keep this conversation going and touch on the specifics of points of reference. You know, for example, the seizures or the diet or, you know, the emotional environment, you know, whatever it is that these individuals are in our lives now at such a huge capacity. You know, I'm sure that people come across these individuals, I mean, with the statistics that we have now, on a daily basis without even realizing it. So I want to kind of wrap up this conversation so that, you know, we're not taking up too much time. But is there anything that you want to share in closing about something specifically that has helped you in being able to kind of integrate this information as well as integrate the who you are into your physicality so that you can relay these messages? You know, it's like, what is anything that can expand upon what's helped you, given you the voice that can speak for this phenomenon that we know that is autism?
Yes, surrounding myself with people who have interest, who want to know, and who are in a like-minded frequency of love. Love is dictated by a sense of purity, the energy behind that, the intention of what that looks like is really what is of importance in assisting not only humanity, but more specifically those whom are on the spectrum so that they can do what they are here to do as it relates to bringing forth and anchoring a higher frequency, providing for them the more pure state substances so that they can exist here more completely integrated with ease and knowing what that is. I would like to be able to provide tools and support for anybody who would like to know what that might look like from an energetic standpoint, nutritional standpoint, functional standpoint, or therapeutic standpoint. There's been a lot of biomedical therapies that have been a large part of my success, and I find that making sure people know what's available to them and on what level they might need it or what avenue to pursue to see if it works for them or is a right for them is very important to bring forward. So I do welcome questions, specific topics that I could discuss, tools, and helping bring forth a greater understanding of what the intention of having the flood of the population of autistics on this planet is at this time, how to manage it, and how it pertains to evolution.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that. Great. So if anybody wants to even have more of a one-on-one conversation with you, a connection with you, they can find you at your website. It's www.officialamberblack.com. Is it the at the beginning?
Yes. Officialamberblack.com.
Okay, so www.officialamberblack.com. You can find Amber there, more information about her as well as contact. And as far as, you know, this channel goes, if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe. You know, that way you'll be updated as to any future conversations that we may have or inspirations that we share on this channel. And, you know, let's continue this conversation. I really appreciate all of you for watching, and we will see you next time. So thanks for watching.
Thank you.